family, son.
Hello and welcome back to the channel in what appears to be room 302. Of course, we're talking about Silent Hill 4. So join me as I decide, do I still hate this game after 21 years? Of course, there will be spoilers, so you've been warned. Okay, let's go. Silent Hill 4 was the final game in the series that was created by the original Team Silent, and it was produced by the series composer Akira Yamaoka, releasing in 2004. And for the most part, it had favourable reviews at launch and still sits at a 76 on Metacritic. But the title has always been divisive amongst fans. From clunky combat to the fact that it's not set in the actual town of Silent Hill, there is plenty to complain about. But that being said, I'm not here to just be negative about the game. I'm here to see if I've changed my mind after 21 years. And I think a good place to start is with the story. The game begins with our protagonist, Henry Townsend, waking up in his apartment. Every surface is covered in grime and blood. The atmosphere is ominous and oppressive. And as he explores this otherworldly apartment, he's attacked by a ghost that violently emerges from the wall of his living room. He falls backwards, and as the phantom crawls towards his face, he suddenly wakes up in bed. The grime and blood have gone, but for the last 5 nights, he has been suffering with headaches and has been plagued with these horrific nightmares. His phone is disconnected, and regardless of his screams, no one outside the apartment can hear him. All the windows are stuck closed, and the apartment door is locked with heavy chains and padlocks from the inside. Henry hears a loud noise from the bathroom and investigates, finding a gaping hole in the wall. Is this a tunnel to his freedom, or is he merely going deeper down the rabbit hole of insanity? Having no other way out of the apartment, he takes the broken pipe from the entrance and crawls into the hole, waking up on the escalators of the subway directly outside his apartment. The place is deserted bar one person, a flirtatious woman called Cynthia, who is under the impression that this is her dream. The pair move forward together through the gloomy tunnels, but when Cynthia runs into the bathroom to vomit, Henry's attacked by horrific dog-like creatures, forcing him to fight for his life. But once he defeats the ghoulish hounds, he finds that Cynthia is nowhere to be seen. So he continues his exploration alone, moving deeper into the subway system, fending off more of the horrific creatures as well as restless spirits. Eventually, he finds Cynthia again and saves her from a locked train car. But as they pass through a series of abandoned trains, they're chased by spectres, and as they run for their lives through an open door to the service tunnels, Cynthia once again disappears, leaving Henry to push forward alone. He finds his way onto another platform where he hears Cynthia calling out over the PA. She says she's found the exit, but begs him to hurry because someone's coming. So Henry fights his way up the escalators, only to find Cynthia on the ground, broken and bloody, numbers carved into her flesh.
Are you okay?
He cradles her as the life slowly drains from her body. Henry once again wakes up in his apartment and looks out of the window. It becomes clear that the events of the subway were far from just a bad dream. From here on out, Henry uses the hole in his bathroom to travel between a series of different worlds, witnessing other bizarre murders. The murders have a striking similarity to the Walter Sullivan serial killer case from 10 years prior to the events of the game. But how can a dead man kill again, and what exactly are the 21 sacraments? Okay, so there's a brief rundown of the story, but what did I think of it? Well, it's a mixed bag for sure. I loved how it linked to the cult from Silent Hill 1 and 3, and the idea of the 21 sacraments was really interesting and had me wondering had Dahlia or somebody else committed similar crimes before the events of Silent Hill 1. I'm sure I'm probably wrong, but it's just something interesting to think about. And of course, after praising the game, you knew I had to go on to something negative, and unfortunately it's quite a big one. It's Henry Townsend. He is absolutely the least compelling character to play as in any Silent Hill game. He's pretty much just a blank slate, and maybe that was a design decision, a bit like Ethan Winters from Resident Evil 7, but it never really felt like he was a vessel for me to experience a story firsthand. He just came across as uncharismatic and boring, which really is a shame after having such a likeable protagonist in Heather Mason in the previous game.
But it's true.
But I can tell you one thing they definitely got right here, and it's the antagonist, Walter Sullivan, who absolutely steals the show in this game and might be the best bad guy in the entire series. He's creepy and evil, but also a really tragic character. Whilst wanting to stop him and being scared of his murderous intent and outright brutality, you can't help but feel sorry for what he went through early in his life and sympathise with his desperate desire to be reunited with his mother. And I think my next point is one of the reasons why I didn't gel with it when it came out, and that's that Walter is the main character, but it's not told from his perspective. And thinking about the story from that approach, it's a lot more palatable. So I guess the only thing left to ask is, what did I think overall? And I can tell you that I was absolutely wrong. I loved the story here. Now I don't think it's as strong as 2 or 3, but it's still really quite compelling and definitely worth checking out. Okay, so that's it for story. Let's move over to gameplay and then graphics and sound. Okay, let's start with the aspects of the gameplay that I liked first. I found the general moment-to-moment exploration actually quite interesting, and even though each world is its own self-contained area, not allowing you the same kind of exploration you'd get from the earlier games, I still really enjoyed making my way around most of them, with my highlights being the water prison and the apartment world. There are lots of documents to find, which help you uncover the story yourself rather than it being shown to you specifically, which is one of my favourite parts of this kind of horror game. Unfortunately, another one of my favourite aspects of this genre, the puzzles, is where Silent Hill 4 starts to fall flat. And that's not to say they're all bad. There are 2 that I really liked. The bloody bed puzzle in the water prison, where you have to rotate the floors to jump down the holes, is great. And so is the bar keypad puzzle, where you have to return to your apartment and look out of the window to find the phone number. But there are only 5 puzzles in this game, and the other 3 are basically fetch quests, which really is a shame coming from a series known for its logic puzzles. Okay, I've put it off long enough, let's talk about the combat. And I'm sure at least someone here watching this is saying, no shit, you're playing a Silent Hill game. Of course the combat's bad. And even though I agree that all Silent Hill games have poor combat except maybe the remake of 2, this just feels worse somehow. For instance, locking on when you have multiple targets, it always seems to pick the wrong one. Sometimes even turning Henry around so your back is to the enemy that's an actual threat. And I will concede that this doesn't actually hinder gameplay too often, but when it does, it can be incredibly frustrating. And then on top of it, there's problems with the hitboxes. I mean, look at this. Sure, it worked in my favour, but it's definitely not a positive for the gameplay. Then of course there's just enemies that are really annoying. The ghosts are fantastic when it comes to the narrative. I love that they're the tortured souls of Walter's victims. But they just seem to get in the way of the exploration aspect of the game, adding an unnecessary layer of urgency. And there's just 2 more things I want to talk about, and that's the haunting in the apartment and the second half of the game being an escort mission. The hauntings themselves are actually quite cool, and the idea of taking your safe space and making it unsafe was pretty interesting, if not slightly annoying, but overall I think a net positive. Although I didn't like how it tied to what ending you got, which leads me on to the escort mission. Now I knew about this going into the game, and I thought it was going to be a big problem for me, but actually I didn't find it to be a problem whatsoever. I wasn't a fan of Eileen's AI, but I did enjoy seeing the victims of the murders we witnessed come back as tortured souls. I didn't enjoy dealing with them, but it was interesting to see them regardless. But there is, of course, a negative to it. You knew a but was coming at this point. Much like with the hauntings, I didn't like how Eileen's condition directly influenced what ending I got. So I'm going to say this again, it's definitely a mixed bag, and I could see how it wouldn't be for everyone like it wasn't for me. But I do think I was wrong. It's been a long 21 years since I first played this game, and I do believe I was too harsh on it. I had absolutely no problem getting through the game and never felt like I had to push myself through it. Sure, it can be frustrating at times, and it's definitely not as good as the 3 games prior to it. Okay, so that was my views on the gameplay. Let's move on to the graphics and sound quickly, and then I'll give my overall impressions at the end. Right, here we go with graphics and sound, and I can't imagine this taking very long at all. As you can probably imagine, Akira Yamaoka knocks it out of the park again with another fantastic soundtrack. I mean, just listen to Room of an Angel, the song that plays when Cynthia dies. It's phenomenal. It's a real standout track.
There's nothing you can do, so sleep in your only memory.
The general soundscape and creepy nature of Silent Hill is still here as well. The only thing that lets it down really are some of the enemy noises. I mean, listen to this. And that leads me on to the only negative I really have for the visuals. Some of the enemy design is just not as good as in previous games, especially the gumheads, hummers and toadstools. They're just not scary and they don't have any of the charm of the other creatures. But there are some standouts. The twin victims look amazing, and I even quite like the look of the patients. And outside of these few issues with the creatures, I think in general the art design is actually really good. There's a few areas that I don't find visually interesting, like the forest, and I wasn't much of a fan of the visual noise filter when you're near ghosts, but as a whole package, it definitely works. And that's about all I want to say about the graphics and sound, so let's just move on to my final thoughts. And if you've made it this far, thank you so much. Please like and subscribe, and definitely leave me a comment. I love reading them. So here I am 21 years later, asking the question, have I changed my mind about Silent Hill 4? And I should imagine that's probably fairly easy to figure out from the video. Yes, I have changed my mind about Silent Hill 4. It is absolutely still my least favourite of the Team Silent games, but I had definitely been far too harsh on it through the years. I really hated it. I really hated it. And I wish I'd really forced myself to get into it earlier on, because I really quite enjoyed the story. I mean, Henry's a bit of a wet fish, but Walter Sullivan really makes up for that. And thinking about it, actually, this game would probably do really well if it had a remake, because with a few tweaks, I think this game could actually be fantastic. And there we have it. After almost half of my entire lifetime, I've changed my mind about Silent Hill 4. If you've made it this far, thank you so much. Like and subscribe, and leave me a comment even if you disagree with what I thought about the game. And I'll see you on the next video. I love you all.